Good morning, everyone. Good morning, this is going to be an interesting episode. So I want you all to buckle your seatbelts. This is Connect Your Audio. I am your host, David Gregors. 110% stunning and brave today, as you will see. Why? Why have I gotten a 10% boost in the stunningness and the bravery? This was not a Dominion counting error this time. No. Today, I've had to turn it up all on my own. It's organic. I've eaten my Wheaties. I've drank a Red Bull. I have wings, and we are going full steam ahead because I have to tell you all what I am doing today is probably very dangerous to this podcast, but I'm going to deliver some very, very hard truths to Republicans, to MAGA Country, of which I consider myself a part. We are the things that I've been seeing coming out of MAGA Country in the last couple of days have been nothing short of suicidal. And I feel that if I allow myself to be silent, even though these people are nominally my allies politically, if I remain silent, then I am complicit in something that will lead to absolute devastation, not just for Donald Trump and his supporters, not just for Republicans, but for this country and perhaps even for this world. So buckle up, everybody. We have some really jagged pills that we have to swallow today. I'm also not going to be following the typical format today as closely as I would. I mean, we're still going to have the Today in Culture, but it's going to be largely related to one central point, one central thesis that I have today, and that is Republicans, MAGA Country. You got to stop being crazy, okay? Now, why am I saying this? Okay, but I've begun writing a book. I think I've mentioned this before. It's a topic that we have discussed previously on the show when I talk about Blue Pill USA, right? Blue pill being the opposite of red pill. From the Matrix, obviously, you take the red pill, you see reality, you see the truth, versus the blue pill, you go back into the Matrix and you don't ever see anything. Republicans have made it, and MAGA Country and a lot of these conservative people online, and call it what you will, all these various subgroups have confused red pill with, how should I say, just accepting any BS conspiracy theory that you see. And this is where I'm wanting to go with this, because you are not red pilled if you are buying into some of these things. All right. You are not red pilled if you are taking actions that are completely contrary to your own political goals or the things that you would like to see in the world. You are not red pilled. You are very much blue pilled. Okay. On the right, we have a tendency to use the red pill for people who are on our side, but it's not true. It's just not true. You can be just as crazy, just as limited in your world focus, and you can be falling for all sorts of lies, all sorts of misleading and leading astray and everything else. You can fall for all those same sort of things from the right just as you can from the left. And it's these people, these blue-pilled Republicans, conservatives, MAGA Country, these blue-pilled, these people who are not waking up, who do not see the reality of the situation that we are in right now. I preface all of this by saying, again, I very much hope Donald Trump wins these court battles, these constitutional battles, everything. Nothing would make me happier than to wake up in the morning and find out that the election results have been found to be illegally certified and no winner can be determined. So we're going to have to get the legislatures in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia. All of these places are going to have send the electors directly from the legislature. Nothing would make me happier, including a revote, which is also a dumb idea. But we're just going to leave it at that. Nothing would make me happier than to wake up and see that. I am on your side. If you agree with that statement, that this is what should happen, I am on your side. I think the election was stolen. I think the election there has been enough fraud that we can't tell really and truly who won. On the flip side of that, I have people out here saying that Trump actually won California. This is insane. This is not reality. This is not helpful. Getting on Twitter or Facebook and saying that Donald Trump won every single state, including California, is not helping our cause. We need to push back the people who say crazy things and listen to the people who are speaking in good, reasoned tones and good, reasonable, logical, provable facts. The fact is that even though, for instance, in Pennsylvania, we can point to all of this ballot box stuffing where you have 120% turnout and 100% going for Joe Biden in some certain situations. The fact of the matter is, even if they go and they start cutting out these overvotes, we don't know who those votes were for. In other words, if we find out that a precinct had 120% turnout, whereas they normally have 70%, for instance, I mean, that's still pretty high, but let's just imagine that's what we find. 120%, they usually have 70%. You don't have any way of knowing what the turnout would have been. You just know it wouldn't have been 120%. So at best, you can only cut 20% of those votes off. Which ones are you going to take off? I don't know. I don't know how you determine that. So there's no way that any of this voting is going to be shown to go one way or the other. I mean, if they can pop open these computers, these Dominion things, and show exactly that Trump votes were affirmatively switched to Biden, those need to be switched back. My impression of the evidence I've seen so far is that that's not the entirety of the issue. Okay? The issue is much, much more complex in terms of mail-in voting, absentee voting, Dominion tabulating certain things and flipping it during the tabulation versus paper ballots, and do the signatures match? Do the signatures match the envelope? There's so many things here. So to imagine that any one legal challenge is going to flip the state, it's not going to happen. What is going to happen is they're going to say, we just don't know who won. So with all that in mind, let's get started. Yesterday I talked a little bit about Lin Wood. He's an attorney. He's working sort of on behalf of Donald Trump, but not really at his command. He's not working, supposedly not in coordination, not getting marching orders or anything like that from Donald Trump. And he is now part of what we're going to be talking about today. So Republicans cannot commit suicide, all right? Two things can be true at once. First, you can be mad about the election and believe it was fraudulent and stolen. And also, you can believe that we are a nation of laws with a constitution that we should follow, even if we think others are not following it. Exhibit A, again, Lin Wood. His call, and I'm bunching these two issues with Lin Wood together because I think they're both illustrative of the bigger point, and I just want to rehash this martial law. You cannot declare martial law and order a revote in a presidential election. I mean, maybe as commander-in-chief, maybe you can make the military do that. But what you are suggesting is ordering the military to go against your own, as President Trump, your own true oath to protect and defend and follow the Constitution. Also, the military, with the same sort of oath to protect and defend. Is the military going to go along with that? I don't know. The Constitution is very clear on when Election Day is. So how do you even declare martial law and do that? First of all, Mr. Wood, why would you suggest something that would set Donald Trump up to be the very thing that we've spent the last 6 months saying that he is not. In other words, why would you set him up to be dragged out of the White House by the military at noon on January 20th? Why would you suggest that? We've been telling the left that he is not this crazy Hitler in waiting. We've been telling them that, and his opponents, we've been arguing with them over this. He's not literally Hitler. We've been telling them this for the last 4 years. Why on God's green earth would you set him up, make a recommendation to set him up, and by the way, set his supporters up to fall into that trap, to prove them right? Lin Wood has Republicans in this way, in this call for martial law, and all of these people out here on Twitter who are agreeing with him. I mean, I keep seeing it. By far, I am the minority position here. What is it that has happened in your heads, people, to make you think that in the United States of America that we need to have the military take things over and put things back the way we think it should be? People, we have a constitutional process for this. We have it. If you don't follow it, that is not a position I can agree with. I'm still very much pro-Trump. I am still in MAGA country. I consider myself. I've got my red MAGA hat. I'm still Republican. I agree with you guys most of the time, but this is nuts, and this is a bridge too far, and it's one I can't go along with. So the next thing that Lin Wood is suggesting, and this one is so disappointing. I mean, he's joined up now with Sidney Powell to push this nonsense. And that is, yesterday at a Stop the Steal rally in Georgia, the two of them got up on the stage, and it just made all kinds of waves on Twitter and other places. So Lin Wood gets up on stage, and he's like encouraging people to boycott the Senate runoff. Now, folks, if we have a 50-48 Senate right now, 50 to 48 in Republican favor. If we lose Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue to these two runoffs, it means we get two Democrats, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, two very radical liberal Democrats. And our Senate will then be 50-50. What happens then? Well, under the presumptive Biden administration that appears to be coming in, we will have tie-breaking votes cast by Vice President Kamala Harris. All right. So when Sidney Powell and Lin Wood are standing up here suggesting that Georgians should boycott the vote, what they are suggesting is to hand the Senate to the Democrats. All right. So what I would like to ask Mr. Wood and Ms. Powell is, why are you suddenly supporting the Green New Deal? $100 trillion over the next 10 years. Why? I thought you were conservatives. I thought you were pro-Trump. Why are you suddenly supporting that? Also, why are you suddenly supporting court packing? Like, we're going to go to, like 35 Supreme Court justices or something. Why is that something you're supporting? Why do you support tearing down Trump's wall that he's already built, the parts of it that he's built? Why are you supporting something that will undo the entirety of the Trump administration's accomplishments? Because that's exactly what you are suggesting, okay? We're going to see the end of the filibuster. We're going to see all of the ends of everything. Guys, if Biden takes office, the House is already in Speaker Pelosi's control and Democrat control. And if we get Loeffler and Perdue, send them packing back to Georgia, and have Warnock and Ossoff in the Senate, I mean, that's all three partisan divisions of government. They're not the branches, but you have the executive will be Democrat, and you'll have both houses of Congress as Democrat. We will have no say in how this country is governed. I don't care if 47% of the people thought that Joe Biden stole the election. If he has no roadblocks in Congress, he will be able to govern, and he will govern in the exact opposite way that I thought Lin Wood and Sidney Powell agreed with. So Wood gets up here and I guess he's gone off like full on, who's a Benny Hinn or something. I mean, he's giving this sermon up here, and he says, "Where's Kelly Loeffler here? Where's David Perdue? They have not earned your vote. Don't give it to them. Why would you go back and vote in another rigged election, for God's sake? You got to fix it. You got to fix it." Sidney Powell gets up there and jumps on board with this insanity, saying, "I would encourage all Georgians to make it known that you will not vote at all unless your vote is secure." Well, first of all, I'm guessing that Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue didn't show up at this thing because these two nincompoops were up here telling people not to vote. And as a Senate candidate in an election that's less than right at a month away, as a Senate candidate, this is the exact opposite message you want to be sending to your constituents or to your potential voters. You don't want to tell them not to go out and vote because that's silly and that's going to guarantee you the opposite result that you want. And, so that's why I'm guessing they weren't there. And also, I've seen this argument. It was boiling my blood last night because I can't imagine anything more ignorant. And you have two pretty well-known attorneys with good reputations supposedly fighting for our side, but telling you to commit suicide. Telling you outright, just hand the freaking Senate over to the Democrats, it'll be fine. What they're saying is, and it's such twisted logic, I can't even truly wrap my brain around it. But basically the idea here is Republicans are this monolithic thing. Wherever they are, whatever they're doing, if they're dog catcher, if they're senator, if they're all the same thing except for Trump. This is the argument. All Republicans are the same except for Trump. All right. So this means that you can leverage one U.S. Senate seat against a Georgia state legislature. In other words, we're not going to vote for your U.S. Senate arm or leg, whatever you want to call it, until your Georgia legislature arm fixes the voting. As if this is actual, and I'm having a difficult time understanding or explaining it because it's so stupid. Okay, and I understand federalism, and I understand that Loeffler and Perdue have nothing to do with what happened in the election on November 3rd. I want you to hear me say that again. Loeffler and Perdue had nothing to do with the outcome of the election on November 3rd. The runoff election in January is not a referendum on Georgia's voting system. Loeffler and Perdue cannot fix Georgia's voting system. If anyone is silly enough to think that the Loeffler and Perdue campaigns are not calling the Secretary of State and the governor and the legislators saying, look, we need to win these seats. Loeffler and Perdue want to go back to Washington. Okay, that's the crazy thing. They want to go back. And if you don't vote for them, there is no third option. Okay, people? I keep seeing people on Twitter, and Lin Wood said the same thing. They didn't earn your vote. What the hell are you talking about? They didn't earn your vote. This is not... We're well past that, okay? We're well past the the analysis of whether a vote was earned or not. We're not in a primary election anymore. We're not. This isn't March of 2019. We're not there anymore. The time to ask that question was back then. The only question that is being asked of you in Georgia right now is simply because neither candidate reached a majority that is 50% plus one. And by state law, that kicks off a runoff. There were a ton of people running in both of these elections. And that kicks off the runoff, to which all of those other ones are whittled down, and you have a simple choice. Do you want Perdue and Loeffler to go back, or do you want Ossoff and Warnock to take their place? There is no third option. There is no neither candidate won my vote, so we're just going to keep the seat open. Sucking your thumb, tucking your tail between your legs, and whining about the vote isn't going to help you. I agree with you that something needs to happen with the state of Georgia and the voting and the security and God knows all over the country. But there are two options in this that Lin Wood, Sidney Powell, all these other people are presenting to you. There are two options, okay? The first option is you go and you vote. And if they're going to steal it, let them steal it. Let them get caught. Let them gin up so much fraud that they get caught. And that this stays in court for the next 4 years until someone is put in that seat. Let them do it. Let's catch them. Option number one. Option number two, don't go and vote and let them win legitimately. Now, somebody in God's green earth, tell me how the hell that helps you. How the hell does it help you to send Democrats to the Senate where you know, you believe with all your heart and the evidence shows that many of them were complicit in nationwide vote fraud? Why would you send two more of them to Washington to give them complete and absolute power? The idea of it is ridiculous. It is stupid. It should not be entertained. I can't believe there are actual grown-up adults out there suggesting that. I can't believe there are two well-known attorneys who passed the bar, who went to law school, who presumably understand civics and politics and voting and all of this. I can't imagine that there are two grown-up adults out there suggesting, don't go vote, because this is the way you get what you want. Let me tell you folks something. Federalism does not allow you to leverage your vote for one national office against a state action. What do I mean by that? Well, because if I'm sitting in the Georgia legislature right now and I've got my eye on running in, say, 2026 for the Senate as a Republican, the best way I can do that is to make sure that there isn't a Republican already in that seat. That is how a politician thinks. Perhaps a politician who thinks that way doesn't deserve your vote. But it's too late. It's too late. We don't have that option. And by the way, boycotting a vote is never leverage. You know why? And leverage requires weight. Okay? If you want to exercise leverage, you do that by voting for a primary opponent. You do that by voting for a third party. That's your leverage. Not voting look, a Georgia runoff, typically, I don't know the exact number, but typically it's something like an 80% drop off in voter participation from a general election to a runoff. That means that like 80-90% fewer people show up for the runoff. It's not going to be this way this time, but we're going to have a little bit of a drop off, I think. But typically, historically, people just don't show up for these runoffs. So if you just don't vote, guess what they're going to think of you? They're going to think you just didn't care. Like every other election, like every other runoff. You cannot entertain this. These two I know they're free agents, and now I understand why Giuliani decided to start distancing from them. I thought it was a little bit more of a Sly Fox move here, but no, the Trump campaign can't be anywhere near this sort of nonsense. Okay? Breitbart took notice of what was happening and decided to issue an article yesterday, just flat out kneecapping Lin Wood. They've dug up all of these records of Lin Wood and discovered that he voted for decades, donated and voted for Democrats. He's apparently never voted in a Republican primary in Georgia. He donated to Barack Obama. He donated to David Perdue's 2014 opponent. Now, me personally, I've changed political affiliations over my life a couple of times. So I understand that things change. Your ideologies evolve, but your political affiliations can change very easily depending on your own movement versus the movement of the party. I get it. I don't hold this against Lin Wood, but he left himself wide open for this. Okay, he left himself open for this hit piece, and this is Breitbart again. Records show Lin Wood has for decades voted for, donated to Democrats, included Barack Obama and David Perdue's 2014 opponent. He left himself wide open for this. And why do I say that? Because he has a history of being a Democrat and he's telling Republicans not to vote. It's the simplest thing in the world. So God bless Breitbart for attempting to take him out. And I hope that other people do as well. And that makes me sad because I really do appreciate Lin Wood's taking up the Covington kids case. I appreciate his work on Richard Jewell. There's been a couple of other, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing. I mean, he's on the right side of those things. And I think he's on the right side of this one. I just think his suggestions are terrible. Just awful. Just awful. It's like he's a doctor and Sidney Powell just, you go in for cancer treatment or something and the doctor is like, you have a room full of doctors over here and you have Lin Wood as one of the doctors and all of the doctors agreed, not including Lin Wood, that your cancer needs to be treated and needs to be cured. And all of the doctors agree, except for Lin Wood. All the rest of the doctors are saying, well, you need chemo and radiation in this way. And Lin Wood's like, no, you just need to drink a quart of arsenic. That'll kill that tumor right away. What you need to do is you just need to put a shotgun in your mouth and blow your head off. That'll kill that tumor like nobody's business. That's what Lin Wood is saying here, and I hate to be graphic, but that's what Lin Wood is suggesting here. I mean, who are you hoping is going to save us from the Green New Deal? If we're not able to avoid it by sheer numbers, right? So all we need is a party line. We have 52 senators up there. All we need is a party line. Heck, even 51. All we need is just party line. We need everybody to stay in line. Do you trust that Romney is going to stay in line? Do you trust Mitt Romney? You think Susan Collins is going to stay in line? What about Lisa Murkowski? Do you trust them not to cross the aisle? If the answer is no, then you need to do everything you can to make sure that both Republican Senate candidates in Georgia go back to Washington. Period. The end. There's no wiggle room. I'm sorry that you feel like your votes are screwed up in Georgia. I agree, and I am just as angry. But this is not the correct hill to die on in this particular battle. So, just keep that in mind. Moving on, Donald Trump gave a speech from the White House last night, calling it the most important speech he's ever given. I agree. I agree with that. It was a very good speech. He apparently listens to my show because he took my advice and he started making the case for what it is he's doing. He is way too late on this. Okay? He is way, way too late on this. But it's a good, smart move. Very good first move, moving in the right direction. Donald Trump needs to be making this case. And if I were Donald Trump, what I would be doing is I would go back to the old COVID like news briefings. Just keep the press out of it. Just release these videos every day, and treat yesterday as the opening statement, and treat every other day as if you're a lawyer going through evidence. And I would be laying out the evidence, because the people, oh boy, the people need to see what it is he's doing here. Not that he's just being a spoiled brat, because he's playing right into that hand when he does that. He's playing right into their hands, because this is what they've painted him as for the last 4 years. And again, they said they're going to have to send in the, Navy SEALs to drag him out of there, I guess. I don't know. But he needs to be making this in a very logical, very reasoned way. Donald Trump is at his heart a salesman. And so he needs to be selling this to the American people. We need more Donald Trump. We need less Sidney Powell, less Lin Wood. We need more Trump, more Rudy, and more Jenna Ellis. I would prefer more Jenna Ellis to more Rudy. And I'd also like to see Pence come into this thing. I'd like to see Pence come in. I know that a lot of people think that he's not going to wade into this because he's trying to preserve his own political future. Frankly, I don't think he has a political future without Donald Trump. That's just my belief. But he's very calm. He's very measured. He's very convincing. And I think he could make this case very, very solidly. So I think he should be part of this. All of this is going really, really well until Rudy and Ellis had to go up later to Michigan, to the state legislature, and make their case, as they have previously in Pennsylvania and Arizona. They did this in the Michigan legislature, and this went viral for all the wrong reasons. As a lawyer, I can tell you, the last thing you want to do is let someone testify when you haven't spoken to them. Because I know in the real world you think, well, you're just going to you're a person, and if you're a person and you're a witness to something, then all you need to do is just be yourself, sit there, and have the lawyer ask you factual questions. And in the perfect world, that would be exactly how it happens. But in the real world, you have, in a court of law at least, you have lawyers who are trying to take who you are and deconstruct you and make you look like an idiot so that you harm the case of the person who put you on the stand to begin with. That's in a court of law. Now, in something like this, in Congress or a legislature somewhere, you have, especially a legislature, where you have people who would never get any media coverage at all, and so they're desperate for their moment in the sun, because they have all the ambition and all the desire for attention that any normal national politician does, just like McCain used to find whatever camera he could to stand in front of it. You have that same sort of tendency on the state legislature side. It's just not anybody really cares usually to give them that sort of attention. But now you have a national issue. So they're all sitting up there wanting to grandstand, wanting to make a name for themselves. And, I don't think that any of them necessarily did, but the witness did. So I would just draw your attention to the witness, Melissa Carone. And again, I find myself at odds with Twitter Nation, or MAGA Country on Twitter, on the Twitterverse, because I thought she was awful. Okay, and again, I'm looking at this as someone who has put witnesses on the stand myself. I've cross-examined witnesses. I've done direct examination. I've had witnesses go sideways. I know what happens when you don't talk thoroughly enough to your witnesses beforehand. This was bad enough that you had actually Rudy Giuliani at one point reaching over and like trying to grab her and say stop. Okay, so this Melissa Carone, she was a I guess a subcontractor. She worked for a subcontractor with Dominion, and she's testifying as to all of these shenanigans that she saw in Michigan. She's one of the affiants to one of the affidavits, and so she's got obviously some things to say. When you go through and you fill out an affidavit like that, and then you get on the stand and testify, all you have is your credibility. And so when you do things to hurt your credibility, and that includes your behavior, then your importance diminishes and your helpfulness diminishes exponentially every time you open your mouth and you behave in the way that she has. Now, to me, again, a lot of people are like, oh man, they're like enchanted with her. They're like, oh man, the way she bites her lip and raises her eyebrow and all this. You people out there, this is not good. This is not, what she did was not good. Why? You'll see. I'm going to play it for you. She came off to me like one of these people, and have you ever gotten on YouTube and watched those public freakout videos? This is what she kind of came off as, where they're like, all these people are just going to these retail stores or going to McDonald's and giving the people a hard time behind the counter because their milkshake machine is down or something. To me, I saw somebody compare this to somebody complaining about a milkshake machine being down, but to me, she actually came off like a woman who was just told by the McDonald's employee that they wouldn't honor her coupon from 2007, and she's going to have to pay full price for her McRib. I mean, she had true disdain for these Michigan legislators. So this might be a little rough. This is the first time I've done it, but I'm going to put the audio of this so you can see exactly what I'm talking about in this podcast, and then I'm going to rejoin. So here we go.
The poll book is completely off. Completely off.
Off by 30,000?
I'd say that poll book is off by over 100,000. That poll book. Why don't you look at the registered voters on there? How many registered voters are on there? Do you even know the answer to that?
No, I guess I'm trying to get to the bottom of this here.
Zero. There's zero.
So, my question then is, if the...
Guess how many... Wait. What about the turnout rate? 120%?
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, please.
So the poll book number... There's two things that could happen here. Either the poll book number... If ballots were counted multiple times, there's two options. Option number one is that the poll book numbers are not going to match.
They don't.
The actual. Not by thousands and thousands of votes. That's not what we see right now.
Take a look again. Take a look again.
Option number two is that they essentially were filling in names of people who didn't vote.
Dead people too?
So is that...
Let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, and then when he's done...
I thought that was his answer. Okay.
Well, I guess that's my question here is, why we're not seeing the poll book off by 30,000 votes. That's not the case.
What did you guys do? Take it and do something crazy to it?
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I
saying
saw.
That they're filling in...
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Okay,
I'm just trying to ask you a legitimate question here.
Yeah, let's let Representative Johnson ask his question, and then don't interrupt him. And then, if you want to respond to it, that's fine. Did you have more, Representative?
Yeah, I guess I just want to keep following back up with the poll book. So are we saying that the poll book is either wildly off, or that they are filling in names?
It's wildly off, and dead people voted, and illegals voted.
Okay.
Yeah. Just make it stop. Please, just make it stop. And the bad thing is maybe she was right. Maybe she's telling the truth here. I have no reason to doubt her, but what she's done here, She's become the story. She's become the story. Okay. So I hope you could see what was going on there, what I was talking about. This is an unforced error on the Trump campaign, the Trump side of things. You just can't put people up there like this. And why do I say that? The reason is that the allegation that is key, the important allegation in this election, in the case that Rudy is making, in the case that Ellis is making, the allegation is voter fraud. Voter fraud. Funny business with the machines, ballot box stuffing, just as a general blanket statement, voter fraud. Our focus is not on martial law. Our focus is not on how can we possibly get a revote. Our focus is not on any of the crazy things that have been rolled out in the last, few weeks. None of these things are our focus, and none of them help us, right? We have to look at the big picture. And anytime you put something out there, including a terrible and distracting witness, these things are what become the story. Now, we can't control the mainstream media, and we can poo-poo the mainstream media, and we can say that, they're not going to give us fair coverage anyway. That's fine, people. I get it. I agree. CNN is never going to be our friend. At least not as it's currently constituted. MSNBC is not going to be our friend as it's currently constituted. But the more that we stay focused, laser focused on an actual message, and that is voter fraud and all the evidence pointing to that, the harder it's going to be for them to talk about other things. Because guess what? Miss Carone gave them 24 hours. They did not have to talk about what was actually said. And I know you say that if we just do it that way, then they just won't cover it. And you're exactly right. But then the bias becomes obvious. There's ways around that. You can take Trump's speech and the Michigan hearing, and you can put it on YouTube. If YouTube blocks it, which they won't, but if YouTube blocks it, you can go to Rumble. You can go to DLive and stream it live right there. You can invite 5 friends over and show them this video. And show them, like, this is, okay, my buddies here, I'm going to put this on the TV. I want you to sit and watch just for 45 minutes. Listen to what the man has to say. This is what's going on. This is the truth. Invite 5 friends over. If 74 million people who voted for Trump did that, we wouldn't need the mainstream media. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. If they cut it, if they ban it, talk about it. All of this talk that we are just beholden to the media, and the media is just not going to cover us fairly. It's an excuse, people. It's an excuse. Twitter banning people and cutting things off, I disagree with it. But there are ways around it. We have Parler. We have Facebook. Facebook's a little bit more lax than Twitter. I don't even really... I don't know any real life people on Twitter. It's just another way of communicating with people. So what do you do? If you have one way that's blocked off, what do? You find another one. What do you do after that? You find another one. Or you just do it like we did, God knows, 20 years ago. As I said, where we just invite a few friends over to our house and watch the video. There's ways to get the truth out there. You just don't want to do it. 74 million people did that times 5. We wouldn't have a problem. Every single person in this country would know the truth. Whether they agreed with it or not, they would understand it. And that's the biggest thing. Because what's happening here is we're letting our case be hijacked by lunatics. Lin Wood, Sidney Powell, Melissa Carone, these people have done us damage. They have done MAGA country damage. They have done President Trump damage. These are unforced errors that we should not be tolerating. And why? Why? It doesn't make any sense. All I can say is that the people who think that Miss Carone did a great job, the people who think that Lin Wood is right, that we should declare martial law, and we should just, have the military just take over the streets and just force a new vote on everybody. By the way, how do you think that vote's going to go? I'm serious. How do you think that vote is going to go when you have the military out here running a brand new election with M16s in their hands? How do you think it's going to go? But we're not going to get anywhere we want to get as long as we have people out here just straight up being crazy. I hope that Lin Wood in his lawsuits has the goods. I'm a little less convinced about him than I am about Sidney Powell, but Sidney Powell is out here saying crazy things too. Just screw the Republic, screw the Republican Party, and let's just let the Democrats have it all. And by the end of 4 years of Biden, the House and the Senate, first of all, don't even talk to me about 2022, because if you have Biden in the House, the Senate, Biden in the White House, Democrats in the Senate, and in the House of Representatives, if you have that, we're never going to get the voting situation fixed. There won't be any national guidelines. It'll all be up to all up to the individual states. And we'll be right back where we started. Do you think China's automatically going to stop sending money to Republican officials in Georgia? I don't even know if any of that's true. But if it is, do you think it's going to stop? If we keep going down the crazy road? No. We need to go down the road where we're likely to win. I say this all the time. I have been for the last year. There was a time when I considered myself, well, I still consider myself to be ideologically libertarian, small L. I still consider myself very much mostly in that camp. I lean a little bit into the conservative side for whatever, if you believe any of those compass things, whatever. But there was a time when I was trying to make the Libertarian Party the vehicle for me, the vehicle for the ideas that I thought were good. And so I joined the Libertarian Party, and I thought to myself, maybe I'm the type of person who can come in and sort of regulate the party and make it, we need more people like me in the party and make it a true alternative to the Republicans that we all hate, like Romney and Rubio, the people that these little squishy Republicans. Maybe we need to make the libertarians like the true rip open your shirt and go out and eat a moose raw or alive, whatever. That's the kind of place people that I thought the libertarians could be. Instead, what it is a debating society of stupid questions and the freaking non-aggression pact and principle, and trying to decide if you're an anarcho-capitalist or a minarchist or whatever. It's stupid. It's complete stupidity. But for the last year, I said, okay, well, I'm not going to be able to support Donald Trump from the Libertarian Party. So I'm going to forget that. They're off anyway. I mean, they had moved. They started pandering to all these little groups, and I said, no, I can't be a part of that. This is not the place for me. I begrudgingly went back to the Republican Party with the understanding that it was Trump's party. And now I see that we do have a problem, but still, let me continue on that path. I still had a lot of libertarian people on my Facebook and a lot of libertarian friends and people I talked to in the Libertarian Party, and they were all about the Libertarian Party candidate for president, Joe Jorgensen. And I would say to them, okay, vote for her all you want, but you're throwing your vote away. And believe me, 4 years ago, I was not in that camp. 4 years ago, I was I believed that even a vote for a third party was not tantamount to throwing your vote away. You're making a statement. But when you have somebody like Joe Jorgensen running, who's got no chance, her vice presidential pick was only slightly better in terms of acceptability than a guy called Vermin Supreme, who wore a boot on his head. But the vice president was like a protege of Mr. Supreme, or Mr. Vermin, whatever you want to call him. He was a protege of him. So he was just a little bit of a step above. At least he wore proper clothes and had a somewhat proper name, even though he derived the name from My Little Pony, supposedly. These people are insane. We should not emulate these people. And I would tell my libertarian friends, I would say, look, you're throwing your vote away on these people. These people are not serious. Whatever. I would get, well, Trump is, but my bump stocks, and he took away the bump stocks, and he said he might think about possibly one day instituting red flag laws, and he's just so anti-Second Amendment, blah, 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 blah. So really and truly, the only, tangible thing that they could point to was the bump stock ban, and I disagree with it, but I also don't care. I have an AR-15. I don't care if I have a bump stock or not. I don't, and I would never use it. But I get it. I get that it's an infringement. So you have libertarians out there, many of whom are Second Amendment absolutists. So you have a choice when you're in a presidential election such as this one we just had, where you have Donald Trump, who agrees with like 80% of what you agree with in terms of the Second Amendment. You have Joe Jorgensen, who apparently believes in like 100% of what you agree with on the Second Amendment. You have Joe Biden, who believes in exactly 0% of what you believe in. Now, Jorgensen probably earns your vote. Say that with air quotes. Earns your vote just by being more closely aligned. But if you know on, say, November 1st that Jorgensen has absolutely zero chance of even breaking 1.5% of the vote, you are... Instead of throwing your vote away, I want you to look at it in terms of you are actually voting for the candidate who is most opposite of what you believe in. In other words, if you look at all the margins, Jorgensen's vote margins, had they all gone for Trump, would have been more than enough to flip each of these swing states. So in that way, if you voted for Jorgensen and you're a Second Amendment absolutist, you've actually voted for Biden, in that you are stealing a Trump vote away, all because of my bump stocks. We got to stop being crazy, okay? This is what that is crazy behavior. What I've just described in the Libertarian Party is crazy behavior. You are on January 20th, Libertarian Party, congratulations, all 1.5% of you. It's a significant amount of people. All 1.5% of you, or however many of you, are Second Amendment absolutists. You believe we should have an M1 Abrams tank. Great. So you voted for Jorgensen thinking that maybe she might give that to you, even though you knew she had no chance in hell of winning. Yet, here you are, you're voting for her. And by not voting for the guy who most agreed with you, in terms of versus Trump and Biden, by not voting for the guy who agreed with you 80%, you are enabling the guy who literally probably doesn't even want you to have an airsoft gun in your house. You're letting him win. You have a third option in that situation, but you are behaving in an insane manner. If if Jorgensen had been running at 30% and Trump was running at 30% and Biden was running at 30%, in other words, the election was close, Jorgensen had a chance, then you're not throwing your vote away. You're taking part in the horse race then. But this is what I see Republicans doing with this runoff. What are you talking about earning your vote? What are you talking about? Is simply serving as a numerical backstop against the Green New Deal not enough? Is serving as a numerical backstop against packing the Supreme Court not enough? What about defunding the police? Is serving as a numerical backstop, assuming all of this goes along party lines, is serving as that backstop against defunding the police not enough for you, Georgia? You want them to fix something they're not responsible for? Come on, give me a break. Stop acting crazy. This is crazy talk. And you people are the same ones who are out there, and this is kind of the funny part, but it's also not funny because it's sad. It's descriptive of a behavior that I'm seeing. The non-red-pilled, let's just say it what it is. It's the blue-pilled MAGA people that I thought perhaps didn't exist or didn't exist in the numbers that I thought that the left portrays. But there's more of them than I thought there were. But you people out there who are saying Joe Biden didn't break his ankle, that he's wearing this boot because it's actually an ankle monitor. This is a real theory. The theory going that they came and arrested him one night, and to preserve his dignity, they just put this boot on and came up with this idea that he fell playing with his dog to cover the fact that he's actually been arrested for election fraud. And this goes along with the don't be crazy thing. Sidney Powell, I will, we've talked about her a lot today and before. I respect her, but for her to suggest that Joe Biden should concede now, lest he be arrested, is silly. It's crazy talk. These are things that we should not be entertaining. Joe Biden didn't get arrested. His ankle boot is not an ankle monitor. Okay? I don't need proof for that. I don't need, because it's so crazy. Sometimes things are so out there that they simply can't be true. And this is one of them. Also, there's been a lot of talk about the United States military invading Germany to steal servers in Frankfurt. That's also not true. They might have gotten them in some way. I don't know. It looks like the vote servers probably over there didn't have anything to do with anything, but maybe they did. A little bit more complicated. But certainly, a team of Navy SEALs did not go into Germany and steal computers. I think Germany would have had something to say about that if that had happened. Also, I don't think the military would have done it, but that's just, it's whatever. It's whatever. You people out there, you believe what you want to believe, and just be as crazy, I guess, as you want to be. I mean, the world is your oyster, but don't expect for the rest of us behaving like adults, the rest of us who want to see Republicans hold on to at least one part of the Congress. Don't expect the rest of us to entertain this. And I say this with all the love in the world. I really, really do. But we have to stop being the party of crazy people. That's just the truth. So I guess we're not doing it today in Culture Today. I was actually intending the ankle monitor thing to be the Today in Culture, but it fit too well with all the rest of this thing. So everyone just needs to stay focused, stay alert, stay faithful. We have a constitution, and we have a darn good constitution that countries around the world have tried to emulate, and we're lucky to have such a system. What Lin Wood, Sidney Powell, and some of these crazies out there are suggesting is to be a banana republic, and I will not stand for that, and I know that there are a lot of people who agree with me. So that's it for today. Thank you, as always, for listening. I hope that I didn't anger you too much. I hope that you see the reasoning behind what I'm saying. I hope that I've changed some minds today. If you enjoyed the show, I encourage you to like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all 74 million people, while you're out there sharing the good news about Trump and the election with your 5 friends. Do me a favor and share the podcast as well. We're available on, I think, all the services now. We're available on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. Amazon Music finally let us through. Acast, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Deezer, Breaker, and Stitcher. We're on all of them. And I did find out, for anybody who's actually curious, Deezer is apparently not related to Deezer D. And I actually thought Deezer D was a DJ or something for Vanilla Ice, but I think he was just in that movie. I don't think he actually was part of Vanilla Ice's posse, because he would become an actor later on and evidently not start a music streaming service. So it's, good to know. The more you know, right? So everyone keep your chin up, okay? Keep your chin up. We're going to be all right. This is the United States of America. We have a process. We have a constitution. Everything's going to be okay. But we just have to keep it together. All right? Have to keep our wits about us. So thanks for tuning in and downloading and all that. And until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless.